Good morning, everyone. It's a good-looking crowd. So are you ready to be inspired? Yeah, I will do my best. So it really is like learning to ride a bike. As I stood in the garage and looked at the bicycle, I thought, maybe if I just roll it out on the street, maybe today's the day. As I stood there and held onto the handlebars, I was like, well, I could just sit on the seat. As I sat on the bike, I noticed there's a slight incline on the road. Oh, if I just turn this bike around, it'll basically roll down the hill by itself. I don't even have to put my feet on the pedals. I can just coast down the hill. As I began to coast, I noticed it was balancing on its own. Oh, maybe I can learn to ride a bike. Now, this story is not an untypical story. It's probably a very common shared experience. But for me, I was not a child. I was an adult. And as an adult, learning to ride a bike, there were some elements that I'd always held on to from a lifetime of being a non-proficient bike rider, or a non-existent bike rider, rather. And so for me, there were some elements that were missing from me as a child to thinking about learning to ride a bike as an adult. So those for me, there were 4 elements. I'm going to discuss those characteristics of learning to ride a bike for me, what made the difference, as well as look at the difference from being a child to being an adult. And so, the 4 characteristics, as you'll see on the board, take a moment to read them in your own time. They were really looking at the desire, my own desire to learn, motivation or willingness to put the time in to get good at it, believing in myself, can I really do this? And then finally, social support. Do I have the support system, the cheerleaders that are going to help me really master this skill? So these are the 4 characteristics that I identified. And so now let's look at a chart. Because what do? When you're looking at your experiences, when you're reflecting on being an adult and what made a difference from childhood, of course, you make a chart. So, as you'll see, my attempt as a child, of these 4 elements, 97% of this pie, a pie chart, came from social support. However, I had no personal desire, no personal motivation, and very little belief that I could be a successful bike rider. So this is me as a child. This social support came in the form of my dad really wanting me and cheering me on, trying to teach me to learn a bike, and it just was not something that I either had the desire, motivation, or belief in myself that I could accomplish. So when it came down to from childhood to adulthood, upon reflection, I re-looked at these 4 areas and considered what really made the difference. And so you'll see, into adulthood, these other areas seem to balance out. So when I look at my desire to learn, some things had changed. I had other people in my life now. My social support network had broadened. My desire now included some goals. Many people in my life at that time had started riding bikes for fun, for transportation, but also for competing in triathlons. So I have a husband who is an Ironman, and I also have other people in my life that have started competing in triathlons and doing competitive biking events. So, this could be something that I could be interested in too, but it was kind of off limits, not being able to be a good bike rider. Another thing was my motivation. Do I really want to put in the time to learn how to ride a bike? I mean, it's not something you can just go out and do, especially as an adult, right? Things are supposed to be harder when you're learning them as an adult. And then finally, belief. Do I really believe that I can do this? Is it something that I feel like I'm capable of doing? And those answers to those questions started to change as I became more motivated to learn and achieve this goal. And then finally, my social support. It was still there. My dad still really wanted me to learn to ride a bike. But additionally, I had other people in my life that were supporting me in this skill, attaining this skill set as well. So it became much more balanced. It wasn't enough for people to want it for me. I had to want it for myself. And there were some other elements in my life that helped me make that decision and adopt it and began looking at that attempt. So really, when I was thinking, what made the difference? What really made the difference? There's lots of elements, but what truly made the difference was myself. I had to change what I saw myself being, from being a non-bike rider to being a bike rider, being able to do this and visualizing it. And that is not enough on its own, but it was enough to get me out on the road and start trying and even just coasting down that hill and beginning to consider myself in the aspect of being a proficient cyclist. So, on my 30th birthday, which it's been a couple years now, I completed my first triathlon. So triathlon, many of you know this, is a 3-tiered event. You run or you swim, and for this one it was a sprint. You swim 300 meters, and then you cycled 10 miles, and then you ran 3.1 miles as a full event back to back. So you cannot compete in a triathlon. You just can't unless you know how to ride a bike. So that was a definite bonus of being able to become a proficient cyclist. And so I was able to successfully complete that actually on the very day of my 30th birthday. So that was a big accomplishment for me in doing that. So really, in considering all of these different elements that made a difference for me and myself, they are very valuable and equally important. However, none of them are accomplishable without that social support. And so today, I will leave you with a live action video of my first time learning to ride a bike. And I want you to consider, what is your metaphorical or literal bicycle riding experience that you need to master or learn? What is keeping you from learning to ride your bicycle?
Snap! You're so riding a bike.
Yeah.
Way to get it.
Yeah,